Civil issues, civil disputes will be the topic of our program today and what the law says about it. Please, I know you guys use so many jargons, you know, all those are legal jargons, but on this program, we try to break it down in simpler terms. So even if you're going to use some of these jargons here, but please try to explain to us so that everybody can easily understand. So in a case like this, so tell us, what's the right of the tenant and the landlord in that kind of contractual agreement?
We have two notices. You serve what we call the quick notice, 6 months quick notice. It's after the service of the 6 months quick notice, which will expire on the eve of the termination of the tenancy. So once that expires, the person is entitled to another 7 days owner's intention to recover possession.
Medley, thanks for this show. In the case where there was no quick notice during the tenancy and the tenant's rent has expired, say by 1 day, and the landlord wants to recover his possession, what's the procedure?
This one happened here in Abuja.
Okay.
Where a landlord or a landowner sold a property to 3 different peoples.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait. And you gave them all papers?
Yeah.
All right, and the other person wants to be like you when he grows up. It says, when should the rent be paid? Before or after, a year after?
Now in Nigeria, we pay rent in advance.
Hi, how will the tenant cope after sending them out of the house and they don't have anywhere?
Should we talk it to an engineer?
Yes, please. Where do I go to? Okay, let's pause on landlord-tenant relationship.
Yeah.
A vehicle hits me, yeah, and he's refusing to pay for my treatment. Should I go to the police to report, or do I come to the lawyer?
No, there are two things that happens. There are two things that happens when you are hit by a vehicle. It can either be an action in tort, which makes it civil, or an action in criminal liability. Let's say for reckless driving. So
okay, so where do I go to? I go to a lawyer or a police?
Now, it's always better. These policemen, the roadworthy, those ones will be there to do the sketches, because that will definitely be helpful. Those sketches, maybe before you go to call a lawyer and all that, they must have told your vehicle out. And
he's a policeman, he lives in my compound. He takes something that belongs to me. He doesn't want to refuse it. He's criminal, remember? Yes. So can I say take it to a police station, to his own police station?
Why not?
Okay, well, there are quite a number of things we needed to talk about on this program today, but as it is, landlord tenant wahala. Everywhere. You are passing by us everywhere. I don't know.
You may have a right, yes, written, but sometimes before you will pursue and get that your right, when that right is handed over to you, even after going to court and all that, it may be worthless. So the best thing to me is always stay out of trouble.
All right, another thing I wanted us to talk about very quickly will be marital divorce issues. We will continue this program later on. Bye-bye. All right, so that's a recap of the last episode of The Medley Show, The Medley Show with Cecil. And you're watching The Medley Show. My name is Cecil Egbele. From that, you can see the much we talked about last week. We discussed the Law 101. And somehow we ended up focusing just on landlord-tenant relationship, property issues. And I see your questions. Many of you kept asking questions even after the program. Your questions kept coming in. Well, a couple of your questions were already answered in the course of the discourse, so I guess we'll get to skip that. And like I mentioned at the end of the last episode of the program, this week we'll focus on other issues, more like some domestic issues. So it's time to meet my guest. And I have quite a very interesting one. And my guest is, well, they say they are learned. She's very learned, especially in the issues of litigation, human rights, gender and child rights, family law, and so many others. She's a principal partner at First Rate Attorney, a staunch member of FIDA. All right, it's time to meet my guest. She is Ogechi Abu. Ogechi, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You have quite an intimidating resume, I must say. So I just had to kind of give a little summary. I know you have so much more to that. Welcome.
Thank you.
I know you were meant to be somewhere, but you had to take time to be here. So we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. Now, on the Medley Show, we are going to be quite interactive. We have a lot of our viewers online who will be asking questions on our phone line. Please, text messages, WhatsApp messages only. I still see somebody calling. Please try not to call, just send in messages. So last week, we discussed issues of landlord-tenant relationship and all the contract we signed and many things. It caused a whole lot of, there were so many issues that came out of it. You hear people saying, you know, the famous six months notice. Yes, even after the program, someone met me and told me that, no, it is supposed to be 6 months after my rent before my landlord can ask me to leave.
Absolutely not.
I mean, the lawyers will say, actually try to explain that. So maybe you want to give us a quick, let me call it a recap on landlord-tenant relationship, and then we'll go on to today's topic. I mean, what are the many issues that you might have had to deal with? And
well, here usually our tenancy is annual.
Yes.
Here, not monthly. So when you have an annual tenancy, the law provides for a requirement of 6 months notice to quit. That is to say, if you don't have a term setting. Sometimes when you have a term setting, it means that the tenancy is for a fixed period. Let's say it's just for, sometimes you have an agreement that is just for 1 year, and that's the end of it. And if any party is interested in renewing it, then they need to indicate.
Okay.
That's for a fixed term setting. So there's the issue of notice and all of that does not arise. Okay. But if you have a tenancy that is renewable, that is open.
Usually when I get a house, all right, landlord, I like this house. Okay, it's very nice.
Yes.
All right, how much is rent? 400,000.
Yes.
I say, okay, I just pay 400,000. So what have I done? Is it fixed or is it renewable?
It all depends on the language in your tenancy agreement.
Okay.
If you draft it in such a way that it says that it is only for, say, 1 year or 2 years, and it terminates, that's the end of the matter. But if it makes provision to say is renewable, and then there's also now provision for termination of the tenancy, that is where all of this issue of notice arises. So, and the notice that is required is 6 months notice, which is supposed to terminate at the expiry of the tenancy, the current term. So let's say you have a tenancy for, say, this 2023, for instance. Your tenancy runs from December 2022 to December 2023. That's the period.
Yeah.
And as the landlord, I want to now terminate the tenancy, the agreement. I will be required to give you 6 months notice to terminate at the expiry of your current tenancy.
Okay.
So I'm required to give you a notice of 6 months period that will end on as your current term is ending in December 2023. So if you count back 6 months.
So it has to be about from July.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
There is the one.
So that's the 6 months notice.
Then I don't end up quitting at that time.
Yes.
And you give me another.
Yes,
note.
It's called a 7 days notice of my intention to now approach a court to recover my premises. Note that my premises is in your possession. You are in occupation of my premises. And I have notified you, giving you the required 6 months notice that I need my property back. I'm not interested in renewing this, because the idea of the 6 months is to give you sufficient time to find alternative accommodation or premises, and then you don't leave. The law now allows me to approach a court. So I will now be required to give you 7 days notice of my intention to approach a court to recover my premises from you, essentially telling you that I'm going to initiate legal proceedings against you to recover my property.
Let's just take this last one before we move on to today's. I visited someone over the weekend, and his rent is still due.
Yes.
But the tenant has put for sale already on the property.
Yes.
Does he have any rights to tell the landlord, please, this property is, I still own ownership of this until, I mean, what does it do?
No, because what you have is a possessory right.
So
the ownership of the property still resides with the owner, the landlord. So the landlord can dispose of his property at any time, but he has a duty to notify the buyer that you have a subsisting tenancy.
Okay, so he's putting the rent there because the tenant was feeling a little uncomfortable that I'm living in this house, is already written for sale outside.
No, but that's not the house is not his property.
Okay.
As long as you are not disturbed in the usage of your apartment.
Yeah.
So nobody is coming in to trouble you and all that. Even if, for instance, the buyers want to inspect the property, the landlord is supposed to appeal to you, to approach you nicely to say, I want to sell this place, they want to come and inspect it and all that, please, because it's a bit of an inconvenience to you, you know. So that's what it should, but you're also expected to be reasonable. So that's why in a situation like that, the landlord is supposed to give you notice that, one, he's going to be selling the property, and then the buyer also knows that you're in the property, so that in the agreement between the landlord, who is now the seller, and the buyer, they take your own interest into consideration, which is just the fact that you have a possessory right for the duration of your tenancy. And that's the end of the matter. You can't interfere with the sale.
It's the sale of it. Okay,
Yes.
I will not take more questions from last week, but this person has just sent a question again. It said, good afternoon, Medley. Let me bring this to your notice. Here in Lagos, landlords usually take laws into their hands by clamping the roof to remove roofing sheets. I'm Ate Isaac Taiwo from Ikorodu in Lagos. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. That is resorting to self-help. Self-help, which the law seriously frowns against, because that will result in anarchy. You can't go and remove the roof. A lot of times they do that to force you out because they don't want to go through the due process of going to court.
Already.
Even if the rent has expired,
Okay.
even if the rent has expired, you have no right to do that. What you can do is, when you now approach the court to remove this tenant who is now overstaying, there's something they call means profit. The tenant is supposed to pay for every single day they stay beyond the period of their tenancy. So if his period, for instance, his tenancy ends in December of 20, or let's say in the past, it ended in December of 2022, but he has now overstayed without paying anything. You've also notified him to go. He's not leaving. You're now in court. You will ask the court to award you what they call means profit for the period he has overstayed, and that's a prorated amount. You know, so let's say the tenancy is 1 million naira per annum. He has now overstayed by, say, 2 months, 3 weeks, 4 months, and some days. The court will prorate that amount for that period, and he is entitled to, he must pay you that. So you shouldn't resort to self-help.
All right, so do not resort to self-help. Well, that ends the topic on...
sorry, let me also mention that you can recover damages for that kind of action from the landlord, because in the process of doing that, it can damage your property. Maybe there's a heavy rainfall, things are destroyed, your properties, anything can happen. So you can also recover damages from the owner for that kind of action.
Okay, not many people know that we can actually have a right.
That's why I thought I should mention it before you move on.
Okay, well, I was just going to ask another question, but I don't want to take so much time. Like, my rent is still due. He's not giving me any quick notice. My roof is leaking, and it's distress of my properties, or the wiring of the house is not properly done, and it has burned some of my stuff. Can I...
that it will all depend on how it happened, because you have to look, if it's by some error or carelessness on your own part in the use of the property, then you can't expect the landlord to be responsible for that. But if it's as a structural defect, there's a fundamental defect in the property, then it means that the house is not as the landlord has presented it to you. It's not in tenantable condition, because when you go to rent a house, the house must be in tenantable condition, that is fit for human living. So if there's a structural defect that now causes you damage, which was not disclosed to you, then yes, in a situation like that, usually what people do is that they will bring it to the attention of the landlord and now request that it will be subtracted from whatever cost they incur in carrying out the repairs or damages that they incur. They will now demand that a reasonable landlord should not have a problem with that.
Okay, now the program is the Medley Show, and you can be part of this conversation. We're moving on to something else now. We're moving on to domestic issues. We're going to be focusing on what does the law say about marriages, about child custody issues, about property when there's a divorce or separation. And in fact, we'll still talk about separation, divorce, and all. We need to understand there are some people who are separated and they tell you they are divorced. Now, before we take this next feature, let me ask you this: educate us a little on marriage. Like, I don't know if you heard of what they call Abuja marriage.
Yes.
Okay, I just come Abuja, will not somehow live in the house. I don't born one pikin, two pikin, I don't born four. So my boy is calling me my wife and everything. So really, tell us, how does the contract of marriage work legally?
The contract of marriage legally, in the legal sense, is that both of you meet each other and then you agree to marry. That's consent.
Agree to
Very
marry.
yes, very critical. You consent to marry each other. Then you now decide the type of marriage you want to contract, because every marriage is not the same. There's statutory marriage, there's church marriage, there's customary marriage, there's Islamic marriage.
Briefly break down statutory.
Statutory marriage is when you go to a marriage registry established by the law,
Okay.
to contract your marriage, or you go to a licensed place of worship. There are places of worship that are licensed by the state to conduct marriages. So that too is statutory marriage. Then the church marriage is the marriage of church, call it essentially church blessing, where two people are in a church that is not licensed to conduct marriages. Then you go there because you worship.
That?
Yes, but the law that applies to them are different.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a type of marriage, but the law that applies to the statutory marriage, the Marriage Act, Matrimonial Causes Act, is not the law that will apply to that one. Then you have the customary marriage, which is when both of you go home.
Go carry wine.
Yes, you carry wine, his family will come, your family will come, you do all of that, and that's all you do. They have that traditional marriage. A lot of us know it. Some of us contract the 3 different types of marriages. We do statutory. Like I personally, I have 3 of them. You have the customary one, you have the church one, then you have the statutory marriage as well. But there are some people who stop at 1. You have the customary marriage. That type of marriage, it is the customary law that will apply to that marriage. The statutory law will not apply to it. Then you have the Islamic marriage, the wedding fatia and all that they do. It is the Islamic law that applies to that, not the statutory law.
Okay, when you mentioned intent to marry, you know, they are in the customary, for some of this, maybe customary, Islamic or whichever,
Yes.
you would have a situation where the 2 persons may not have consented to marry, but family, like say in Africa, you don't marry an individual, you marry a family. Family say you must marry this one. Like, you know, they just, grudgingly go and do it and solve in the law.
Well, that's not a valid marriage under the law, because your consent to
maybe
marry
you have ended up signing to it. So is it like you're signing under duress?
Well, so it's all arguable.
Okay.
So for instance, if your parents prevail on you, prevail is a different thing. They prevail on you to say, marry this person. You grudgingly, you concede, you agree to do it, but you agree even though you were pressured. Do you understand? But the consent I'm talking about, where you don't have consent, is where you are deceived. So for instance, you may even give your consent under the statutory marriage, for instance, but the consent was obtained by fraud and misrepresentation. Like recently, there was a marriage that we were involved in that was nullified under the law. There are 2 different things. There's nullification, there's dissolution.
Okay, give me a minute. I would like us to take the feature on divorce. Yes, we want to understand how divorce works.
So when you talk of divorce, that's
so
dissolution.
we get that ready right now. But so while we're getting that ready, let's understand annulment.
Yes.
Like annulment kind of means like it never took place.
Yes, in the eyes of the law, it never took place.
Give us an instance.
An instance is the case I was going to give you, life case that we did. She consented to the marriage, but her consent was obtained by fraud because the man made a lot of misrepresentations to her. He claimed that he was from a certain family which he didn't belong to. He said he was an aeronautics pilot trained in the US and all that, because they met here in Abuja in church. And then she didn't really get to meet his family because he kept saying they were from different states, different ethnicity. And then he hid under that to say, oh, my family wants me to marry someone from my area and all that. And you know, when you're in the city, a city like Abuja, you're in the church, you go to your pastor to share all of your challenges, say, oh, just go ahead and do what you want to do. So they went to the AMAC, their marriage registry here, to contract their marriage and everything. Only for her to now, when she got into the marriage, she found out that he wasn't who he represented himself to be. Then he had even 2 or 3 children by 2, 3 different women.
No way.
Yes, this is a case that I personally handled. You know, so in that situation, you're not talking of a dissolution now, because he misrepresented facts to her. He obtained her consent. Yes, she consented to the marriage, but that consent was obtained by fraud, by lies, by misrepresentation. So what the court did in that kind of instance is to nullify the marriage as if it never happened in the eyes of the law, because it was not a valid marriage. Your consent must be a real consent. It must be consent that you truly want to give, because you believe that this is the person that you are and this is the person that I want to marry.
All right, so you can send in your messages once again to our phone line 081 177 82020. Ask your questions on the law as regards marriages, custody issues, separation, and divorce. All right, if
and then there's also the issue of incapacity to consummate for nullifying marriages. You know that as a man, for instance, you don't have the capacity to consummate, because consummation of a marriage is a very vital aspect of marriage. A marriage is not a real marriage if it's not consummated. That is copulation between the man and woman, and you know that you have this challenge, but you hide it.
Yeah, that's the one I know. That's what I know about the annulment.
Yes.
Yeah, but for the other, I didn't know that, because many of such cases you explained happen. And all right, so let's take this skit, and this skit is put together by the crew. It's on divorce. All right, let's take a look at it, and we'll be right back.
Hello baby, how you doing? Hope you're good. I just want to remind you of our meeting by 4 p.m. Hope you remember. Take care.
Hello?
Love you.
Hello.
Hello? Oh,
Hello.
sorry.
When has Alex mechanic become a female person? Wow. Okay. Problem. Waiting for him to come.
Rose, who was that on the phone?
Alex. Mechanic. I'm not supposed to hear what? I've heard everything. You have an appointment with her by 4 p.m.
What do
you want? I don't understand. It's not what I think. I've heard everything. Please, I'm done with this marriage. I'm tired. I'm not.
Okay now.
Please. I'm living with my children.
You want to carry my friend? Sit down. What's going on? Sit down. You want to carry them to Oloche? Oh, so you think I didn't know? You think you know that I
It doesn't matter. I can take care of my children.
Oh, my children.
They will stay with me.
Please. I will take them to my mother.
They cannot stay with your mother.
It's okay.
No. Please.
Thank God you're spoken to their mother. That's where I'm going to now.
No. Leave my.
Come on, let's go.
Leave my children.
What's the meaning of that?
That that skit we've just seen, take a look at. I think this, not just on divorce, it's kind of pregnant with other issues we will talk about. So now, you've just, before we took that, you talked to us about how marriage is contracted and issues of annulment and all. Now, let's react to what we've just seen. We're taking a look at Now, first of all, let's understand separation and divorce. Because what's happening there now is more like separation. There are many people in this town, or we see around, who are separated, and somehow they go ahead to another relationship. They are planning marriage, and they are just separated and not divorced. So tell us about separation and divorce.
Separation just means that you're living apart. You're living apart. That's all it is. Your marriage is still a valid and legally intact marriage as far as the law is concerned.
Yeah, but I'm a man. I was saying she just moved out of the house. In fact, I don't even want to see her again. She did this and she did that.
So that's the thing. That's why I'm saying that you're separated because you see, the thing with marriage is that when you marry someone, there's a duty, a responsibility, an obligation for you to live together, because there's a right of consortium. There's something they call the right of consortium. That is the right of both of you to consummate, to be together. Okay. You're entitled to the person's care. She's entitled to your care. That's what we talk about body. Right to the person's body. The person has a right to your body, subject, of course, to your consent at every given time. You understand what I mean? So that's it comes with marriage, to be together, to consummate, to copulate, to cohabit. That's the word. Cohabitation. Yes, to live together. Now, when you now do something contrary to that cohabitation, that is now called a separation, living apart. Because the marriage inures, with marriage comes the right to cohabit with somebody.
Okay, now.
So when you now don't cohabit, you don't live to cohabit, it means living together.
Yes.
So when you now don't live together, it means that there's now a separation.
Okay, does the law have any provision to say if we are separated for this period of time,
yes,
and we can be seen as no longer married? Does the law have something like that?
No, but it can be a ground. It can be a factor. So, for instance, a valid marriage, we are now talking of statutory marriage now because you're talking of divorce. The only ground to dissolve a marriage in Nigeria as it is today is that the marriage has broken down irretrievably. That is to say, it can be salvaged based on all the facts. But then there are factors that will establish the fact of the marriage having broken down irretrievably. One of them is this living apart, separation. If you have been, there are two types. One is when you have been separated for like 2 years and the other party does not object to the dissolution of the marriage. The other one, no fault, when you have lived apart for 3 years. Nobody is going to tell you, just come to court to say, we have lived apart for 3 years. And that, if you remember Pastor Chris Okotie, when he divorced, when him and his wife separated, that was the ground they used.
Yeah.
There are different factors that the law provides. The ground is that the marriage has broken down irretrievably, but there are different factors. One of them is desertion, when someone has deserted you. Another one is adultery and intolerability. Another one, which is usually very common, is unreasonable behavior. When you come and say, this person has behaved in such a way that I cannot reasonably be expected to continue to live with this person.
I mean, and can this just be done like in a month after marriage? I just say, oh my God, it has to be for...
There is a period of 2 years. So the law does not allow you to bring divorce proceedings in a period of 2 years after the marriage, except when you are talking about cruel behavior, that there's serious cruelty, and then that's where you now seek leave to come. Because usually, the law takes marriage very seriously and really likes to give the parties an opportunity to see how they can save their marriage. Even when you go to court, you bring your divorce petition to court, the courts will still have the power to initiate settlement proceedings. The courts can advise, both parties can try to intervene to see how parties can be settled, how their issues can be resolved, how the marriage can be saved. The courts can do that.
All right, so we have a lot of messages coming in already. So
yes,
as much as possible, we'll take them tap.
Yeah.
All right, this person, you're just writing, can I divorce all my wives? I don't understand all my wives. So possibly he's a Muslim, I think or are there Christians who marry more than, does the law allow that?
Well, the law does not allow more than one wife for statutory marriages. Yes. And then that's actually an offense called bigamy, when you have one wife. So even Even in under statutory law, if you are married to somebody in the traditional way,
Yeah.
you are not allowed to marry someone else other than that person.
Whoa!
Yes.
Are you
statutorily,
serious?
Yes.
Did you know that?
There are a lot of things people don't know.
But you know that in this country, there are a lot of people who are married traditionally. That's the customary.
Yes.
And then maybe that one's in the village. You come to town and he just goes and marries and say that after all, I'm not marrying for court.
No. That is against the law. That is against the law. If you are married to someone, when you come to marry under the statutory marriage, you should be a bachelor and the woman should be a spinster.
Sorry, let me laugh. Because this country, oh God, how do they say it? Everybody in our cruise. Okay, we'll talk about that. Let's take more messages.
It's because people don't take their time to try to enforce the law. That's why a lot of times women just say, well, that's it. I know some people who they are still married. The man is even in the process. Maybe they are in the process of getting a divorce or something, and they've already gone ahead to marry someone else.
I've seen that too.
No, but it's wrong. You can actually charge is a criminal offense of bigamy.
You know, I mean, when the court is going to do the statutory marriage,
yes,
I guess shouldn't they ask questions like,
yes,
yes,
there are forms that you fill in that regard.
People obviously lie.
Obviously, people lie, and then there's even a period that is given for caveats to be entered. The same thing like the way you asked in the church, is there any reason why this marriage shouldn't go on? So there's a period that the law also provides between when you apply to the registry for the marriage and when the marriage is actually conducted. There's a period where that the public is allowed to.
All right, let's take this.
To make
let's take 2 or 3 questions and you answer them together.
Yes.
Assuming we had a legal wedding and I divorced my wife and I discovered my wife is cheating and we both decided to quit the marriage, does my wife still have a share in my property which I already have bought before the wedding? This is Zidane from Ekiti. So we'll pause on that. I want you to take 2 questions together. All right, so that's property, sharing the property at discovered my wife is cheating. Okay, and we're both decided to quit the marriage and I'm trying to take another Okay, let's say my wife keeps accusing me of cheating on her and she's threatening to leave. What do I do? Because I'm innocent of her accusations. Briefly answer this too.
Well, if you're innocent of her accusation, then you need to show her that it's not true. Do you understand what I mean? If you say you're innocent of the accusation, then, I mean, there must be a reason why she strongly believes that you're cheating, you know. But then again, if she now goes to court on that ground, the onus is on her. That is the burden. The responsibility is on her to show the court that the man is actually cheating or not. So if she goes to court and she's not able to demonstrate by credible evidence that the man is cheating, then the court will throw away the petition.
All right, property.
Yes. So the property one, he made a point. He said property that he acquired before the marriage.
Yes.
So a lot of times the courts will not touch that property if it's property that you acquired before the marriage, except you can show that you contributed to that. But no, he's already said that it was before the marriage, before I met you and everything, I had this. So that type of property is usually not even on the table. The property that is usually in contention is property that is acquired in the course of the marriage, in the duration of the marriage, during the lifespan of the marriage. And this is a very critical thing because for many years now, I'm sad to say, the courts have not really helped women. Because what has happened is this. A lot of women are sitting at home in these marriages thinking that they have something. Meanwhile, when they go to court, they find out they have nothing. Because for some reason, the men will buy this property in their name alone. It's as if they already intend to retain control. Yes, as if it's intentional. So they buy this property in their name alone, and then when you now go to court, for many years, the courts will begin to ask you, because when you go to court and you say it's joint property, it should be distributed equitably between us and everything, then the men will set up the argument that it is owned by me alone. You did not make any contribution. The woman, and in the past, the courts have been asking the women to provide evidence that they made financial contribution towards those acquisition of those properties. And when the women don't have it, they've been sending these women away empty-handed, you know. And they will tell you, a lot of times women will come and say, I gave him some money, but you did not document it and everything because you were dealing on trust. But luckily, just in 2021, the Court of Appeal made a very progressive decision to say that, look, the contract of marriage is not a business plan, it's not a business contract or arrangement where the court expects the woman to keep record of everything that she has contributed, because you're dealing with somebody on trust. Because at the time you are dealing with the man, you don't expect that this will ever happen, you know. So you're not keeping record and everything. And the court now said that if you can show that contribution in a marriage should not only be financial. That the fact that you are also contributing to the upkeep, you know, and all of that, emotional, of the house. Yes, because you provide this environment. We are talking marriages of 20 years, 23 years, and someone, you want to reduce all that time to nothing. You've had maybe 2-3 children for him, giving the best years of your life, and then the court wants to send you away like that. So the court said no. This is
okay, Chiabu, family rights lawyer. So many. I mean, you see, you are very passionate right now, but we have so little time and so much to talk about. Unfortunately, yes. But we went on the streets to ask people who takes custody of the child. I mean, there has an argument that the man will say, it's my child, like we saw in that skit, and the woman will say, I'm the mother. The man will say, no, you don't have anything to do. My sister, so the mother. All right, let's hear your what your thoughts are on this topic.
For one, I believe after separation, if the woman is responsible, it should be about who is more responsible among the both parents that will bring up the child in a good way.
I think the mother. Okay. Yeah, because I think the child will be well, taken care of when staying with the mom or when being with the mom than the father. Because I know definitely the father will get married, and new mom won't be able to take care of the child like the main mom.
It should be their mom who will give them their attention because of how busy most men tend to be. But if the mom is not responsible enough, that is when other options can be looked at, such as looking at, is the father readily available, is he responsible?
If I will start from separation is not the right thing, quite all right to any man or woman. But when it comes an issue that one had to go in the pains one or the other goes through, I believe the mother should be the one to take care of the kids. It depends on how old they are, quite all right. If the kids are still young, to the age of maybe 1 to 10, let the mother be with that child, or even to the teenage age.
If either of the party is responsible enough, they will give him the custody of the kids. But before that, they can engage the service of a counselor to know which among them is, is responsible. Because of our times, we are fortunate. I don't want to say unfortunate. We are fortunate parents. So either of the party may not be so reasonable and responsible enough to take care of the kids.
It's the father. The father will pay the school fees, then pay the school fees, take care of them, both the feeding and all that.
The custody of the kids will depend really on the culture of the people of that area. Why? Because in some cultures, woman doesn't take custody of children, but in some culture, men does not also take custody of children. So if your culture permits that a woman should take custody of the children, it's better the woman take custody of the children because she can handle children more attractively and more better than the man?
It all depends on how old are the kids. Say little kids that are 4, 5 years, 6 years, and thereabout, I believe they should be in the custody of their mother because they are still in their formative years, and they need somebody, to nurse and nurture them as a mother. So the mother should be the one, to be in charge of them, because women, we scarcely have time for them. You understand? So, but if they are above 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, come on, man. The man is the father. He should take care of his family because he needs money to take care of them.
Yes, child custody issue is a very serious one. I mean, I have a friend, he's separated from his wife, and for almost a year now, his wife has not made him see the kids. He says, and they're trying to bring, they had both the customary, the 3 marriages like you talked about. So react very quickly to the responses that you heard there.
Your audience, the people the interviewees, they were quite enlightened on the issues. So really, in custody issues, the paramount consideration is the best interest of the children, the welfare and best interest of the children. That is the critical consideration that weigh heavily on the mind of the court. Okay. And they all talked about who is more responsible, the character, the attitude, the behavior of the couple too, of both parties since the marriage as well, is also something that the court will consider. But I need to correct something. There's a woman who said the father will pay school fees, feed them and everything. Money is not the main consideration for awarding custody of a child. Okay. Because you can have money, but you don't have time for the children. You can't provide the moral care, the spiritual and emotional needs that the children need. So nothing precludes the court from awarding custody of the children to the woman while the man is ordered to make provision for their maintenance, their school fees, education, and all of that. Accommodation, okay. Yes.
All right, so let's take a couple of questions.
Yes, but the character, the behavior.
Now, who decides what behavior is? Because
it's the court. That's what I'm telling you. Because it's the court that will award custody. The court will make the decision to award the custody based on the facts and evidence provided to the court. So if a man, you can show the court that a man is a violent person, always beating the children, beating the wife, there's no way the court can grant him custody even if he has all the money in the world. Then if you can also show that the woman is irresponsible, she's hardly at home, she's involved with the several men, she doesn't have time for the children, the court will also not award such a woman the custody of the children.
Okay, let's take 2-3 questions and see how we can take them together. My wife and I are not together. Her dad returned exactly half of the bride price that I paid. Are we still married? And I want my wife back. This is Mr. One from Lagos. Doesn't know the bride price. Is she paying her for the bride price? Okay, she's asked, Precious Udo, she has answered the question on the difference between annulment and divorce, but maybe you might want to just drop a line or two on that. Please, ma'am, if husband is saying that I don't want to marry you again because he can't afford house rent, what should I do?
No, not affording house rent is not a ground not to continue in the marriage, please. The grounds are clear. I tried to mention some of them. Not affording house rent. Financial hardship is not one of them.
It's not one of them.
So what you can do is that kind of situation, maybe you people will put heads together as a family. As the woman, what is she doing? What is her contribution to the marriage? Because the man is obviously saying to her, I can't carry the burden alone.
You can move to somewhere
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Exactly, you can lower your, somewhere less expensive. Or you too can also decide on how you can contribute. If you're not working, you may think of starting work, starting a business, and supporting him.
All right, so let's take the next one on half bride price paid.
Well, half bride price paid, it means that maybe it's a customary marriage. Yes, customary marriage. So it depends on what the law of their custom provides. Like I know that in a lot of places, Igbo for instance, one of the ways that you can dissolve a customary marriage, a traditional marriage, is the refund of the bride price and every other thing that was associated to the marriage, and that's the end of it. But in our own case, they do a full refund. I don't know, this one they are talking of half. Maybe that is what their law provides.
Or maybe the father has not been able to provide it all, so he provided half of it.
Exactly.
So, but they are still married, at least, if it's customary-wise.
Well, once you begin to talk about refund of bride price, then the marriage is not really, because the bride price is like the symbol, yes, of the marriage. And now they are not living together again. Marriage and half bride price has been returned. Then the marriage is basically over.
Good day. In a situation where two persons did court marriage, traditional and church marriage, and the woman left the man, he did not ask her to leave. She left on her own due to misunderstanding, and the man has called for her family members to return his bride price, but they kept giving him dates that has never come. What should the man do? Well, I guess you understand that. Let me take this up. Can I divorce my wife on the basis that she is not a virgin? Like, seriously. Please.
Well, if she misled him, if she lied to him.
If she lied to him.
that she was a virgin. Did they talk about it? That's one of the things you will answer, because it can be, it can come under deceit. If you say, I want to marry a virgin, and you disclose that to me, that look, you make it clear, it is a virgin that I want, and then the woman knows that she's not a virgin, and then she misleads you into, that's deceit now.
Deception.
Yes,
so there could be annulment for that. If that agreement, if that was stated at the beginning.
Yes, it's arguable. That's what I'm saying.
All right, so
it's arguable. That's why I say it's arguable.
Ask a lawyer.
It will be a very funny ground to come. But
I mean, I can imagine all the kind of things that you see in court.
Oh yes. But it's arguable.
It's arguable.
Like the one I told you about, how he lied about who he was, his family, his person, what he was doing and all that. Oh, there should be no lies.
No, of a couple.
There should be no lies.
They both lied. The guy wanted to marry a girl of influential, so the girl pretended to be.
Yes.
And the girl wanted someone of that same standing. He pretended. So they got married. When they got married and the truth came out.
Oh, they deceived each other now. So there are even people who go to the extent of even hiding their genotype, knowing that maybe your AS is AS, and then they end up having a sickler child, you know.
All right, so the one that talked about the wife left the house, they've done all the marriages, court, church, and traditional, and she's asking back for his bride price, and they're not giving it to him.
Yes, well, his bride price, even if they give him the bride price, that is only as it relates to the customary marriage. It does not impact the statutory marriage.
So does he have to go to the three to...
Yes, no, two of them essentially, really, because the church has really nothing to do in the matter. The church can't grant anybody a divorce. So if the statutory marriage can only be dissolved by the high court in the states, any state in Nigeria, really, so he needs to, so the return of the bride price only relates to the customary marriage, the traditional marriage. It does not dissolve the statutory marriage, which can only be dissolved by a high court of a state.
Okay, so I think we have a feature ready. I don't know which yet, so let's okay, let's take this one. Hello, I'm Peace from Benin. I love this program. Please bring Barrister Chinedu Stella Ugezu again to educate us. Oh, the barrister that came in the last episode. What do I do when my wife parents come to pack her things from me? Please stop calling for me, and yet we still see each other, and she wants me to go to the parents. Okay.
So that's like interference.
Yeah, the parents come pack the things, but she wants to stay back, so she wants him to go to the parents and maybe try to get her back. I don't understand.
But that's not what it should be. When you marry, there are two adults, and really that interference should not happen at all.
Okay, let's see. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm so sorry, please. My question is that when a man impregnated a lady and he didn't pay anything on the lady's head, and he is not taking care of the child right from when he is little. Now the child is 7 years old. Does that man have right over the child?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. You have right in the sense that he's your child. Do you understand? But right, I'm thinking she's talking about is like the right he feels that he can come and just take the child away from her. No, he doesn't have that right. He doesn't have that right.
Okay, that's, and I think that what you just said is really true. I need to understand it a little more, but let's pause on that. Let's just relax a little, and take a look at some lawyers, some people who, I don't know if it's those ones who go to study law because daddy and mommy say so, or when they come out, they become something else. Well, these are the ones who are skit makers online, and though they are lawyers by training. Let's have a look at it just as a break, and then we'll come back to conclude our discussion.
You may now put on your wigs.
Back in the days when it was fashionable to have career titles such as lawyers, engineers, doctors, architects, among others, the dynamics of today's world has impacted on perceptions of academic pursuit and actual career paths driven by passion. Today, lawyers, for instance, have found career fulfillment in the entertainment industry, particularly in the music, movies, and drama productions.
My weakness in this life is something that makes me to be ashamed.
Popularly known as Fowls the Bad Guy, son of renowned senator advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, was called into the Nigerian bar in 2012 after obtaining a Bachelor of Law degree. He made his debut into the Nollywood with the popular soap opera Jennifer's Diary, produced by Funke Akindele. This is in addition to his numerous comedy skits and talented exploits in the music industry.
Hey everybody, like this here again. Something just happened right now. What's happening?
Nosa Afolabi, better known as Lasisi Elenu, is another notable comedy skit producer who has switched his career path from the bar to the comedy arena. He has won several accolades for his talents as a comic act. Lasisi's unique brand of comedy has shown that passion and consistency are key ingredients to career success.
My bro, have to know. You live around here, yes, sir. How amazing.
Comedy entertainer Sani Michael, also known as MC Lively, came into the limelight through his funny skit Agidi. In 2016, he turned down his call to bar for his comedy skits. Skit making, like movie and music, has been a lucrative online venture which has made many talented youths set aside their university degrees and embrace this business of laughter.
What are you eating? Is this food? No, I mean, what is in your plate? Is that food? This food. This grass is food.
All right, that was just something to laugh about. Lawyers who have turned skit makers. Okay. I will see how much of our messages we can take before we end the show. Who is this person? Can a man who has not paid bride price of a woman be in custody of the children in Igbo land? You know, you just mentioned you're Igbo.
No,
so.
Absolutely not. Because to my understanding of our own culture is that the bride price you pay is what actually gives you the right to even talk about custody of the children. So if you've not paid the bride price, the family of the woman does not even acknowledge you as the father of the children. Mm. Yes, they don't acknowledge you. They don't give you any recognition.
You cannot. Which comes first? The statutory or the court wedding, marriage? Let's leave it at that. It comes before the traditional. I mean, how does it come?
Not necessarily. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's the traditional people do first.
People do first.
Then they go to do the registry.
But can they do the church, without doing the registry?
Of course.
Oh,
because of course, the registry is optional, is what you want to choose for yourself. Like some people just resist it. A lot of men, actually, from what I understand, when a lot of women talk, they will complain that they want to go and do the registry marriage, but the men don't want it because they always believe that registry marriage affords the women a lot of protection. A lot of legal backing and protection than the customary marriage and the church blessing, which really is true. Yes, because the customary marriage, for instance, you see it now, everybody's talking about custom is the father of the children, he can do. You know, the way culture is very oppressive to women. sometimes, a lot of times, you know. But the statutory marriage, I just told you now, the primary consideration will be the best interest of the children.
Yeah.
Then there's issue of settlement of property as well, where you can go and ask for some parts of the property depending on how the evidence you have, the disposition of the court, because that would be at the discretion of the court.
Okay.
You know, but for the customary marriage, a lot of times they just toss you out.
All right, I'm married for 8 years now, and there's no child, and I'm the only child of my mother. I'm worried. That's one. I am Meshach Ndaigi from Kwara State. I love this program. If a man did not love his wife, what should he do? Okay. Another person is asking, Frank Okuzi, your question, she'll take it off camera later. And Obiku, I want to know if the lady whose consent was fraudulently gotten can claim damages after the annulment. In a situation where your ex-girlfriend, another person is asking, in a situation where your ex-girlfriend came to you after years of separation telling you that her baby whom she has given to you. We don't have time for all these messages now. We are actually running out of time. There are so many of these coming in. I'm sorry, for those of you on WhatsApp, your messages are not dropping, it's just dropping now. But the program is about ending. So I'll just take your last word from you. Talking about domestic issues, what would you advise?
Domestic issues, and as it relates to this marriage, I would really, really honestly advise that people seek legal counseling before they enter marriage.
Especially on property.
On everything, marriage as a whole. Because a lot of people, especially women, are always rudely shocked when they go to court and see that this thing is not as I expected it to be. People go to do their medicals before marriage. They also go to do counseling, especially the church party for before marriage. There's no reason why you should not consult a lawyer.
We are about going off air. So thank you very much. This is the much that we can take on the program today. Next week is another day. The Medley Show will continue. All right. Bye-bye.